Hi there, I am Jennifer from Glitter, Vermont, and I am just starting this a little bit late, but I wanted to help you guys with tutorials, sink or swim together kind of thing. So I am actually making these Hocus Pocus spell book, and what I did was I used a 30-ounce tumbler, and I've done a couple of steps already, but I just want to go from here. So what I did was I prepped the 30-ounce tumbler by sanding it and then spray painting it the white base, and then I started with Mod Podge on it, but decided actually it was easier to use a tacky glue, so I actually used this tacky glue from the dollar store. And what I did was I put the tacky glue on top of the 30-ounce and I brushed it all the way down, and then I took paper towel. This is the one that I used. When I placed it down, I actually didn't place it down on this side, but the back side. So it was more leathery, and then I just placed it around the cup and ripped a few pieces to create the leathery spell book on here. And then, so what I did was I put the tacky glue down, then I placed the paper towel this way on top of the tumbler here, made sure it was sticky on that side, and then I actually took this tacky glue and I put a whole nother layer over the top of the paper towel, excuse me. And then for up here, I actually wrapped the bottom like this, and then I took another piece and I ripped a second piece up here, and then a few pieces for the top here. And then I used the tacky glue and I did an entire overlay of this. And then I let it sit and dry overnight. So we're actually on day 2 now. And what I did was I took a brown, I used the Apple Barrel melted chocolate brown. It was 50 cents at Walmart. And what I did was I just painted the brown over the top of the paper towel to get what I am at today. So this is all dried and ready for the next step. So my next step is actually to, I'm going to be using clay. So I went to Michael's and I bought the Crayola air dry clay. It does say that you can use water, but you don't need to. I haven't actually used this yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of molds on top of the cup to make the stitch area and then the clasp and the eye around it. So we're going to do that together. The eyeball I couldn't find anywhere, so I decided to make my own. I took a white marble that my daughter collects, rocks and things, and what I did was on the back side I used nail polish. I used this matte black nail polish for the pupil in the middle, and then I used this little bluish color here. And what I did was I went around the rim with the blue and used a toothpick here, and I pulled the blue into the middle towards the pupil, and then just in this type of stroke. And then I added a little more nail polish as I went until I pulled it through to the point where I liked it on the other side. And then the other color I used was this yellow LA Craze. I think I got it at Walgreens. And so I used that and I covered the whole backside, and I used the toothpick once again to pull the yellow from the outside, inside out this time. So sort of back, and then I covered the rest of it. So this is the little eye that I'm going to be using for the spellbook eye. So I'm going to set that one aside. And so what I'm going to do at this point is the next step will be I'm going to use Mod Podge, little Mod Podges from the dollar store, and I'm going to cover this entire thing just to seal in the paper towel, make sure that it is all dry and ready to go. After this dries, then I will be using the clay to sculpt my areas. So we are going to get a little bit of Mod Podge and we're just going to cover this for this step. And the things that I'm using today: tacky glue from the dollar store, Mod Podge from the dollar store, Crayola air dry clay. This was $6.99 at Michael's. I am using a marble, which you can get a bunch of these for like vases and things from the dollar store also. I'm a cheapie, so let's go with what we can afford. And then I used these 3 nail polishes here. Now you can use a green nail polish or whatever color eye that you want for this. And then the colors that I have for the actual book, I used again the melted chocolate from Apple Barrel. And then for the clasp, I'm going to use pewter gray, also Apple Barrel. These were 50 cents at Walmart. I do have this little tray that I got from the dollar store, and the brushes that I use are here, and they're just random ones that I pick up at whatever store I'm at if I'm needing a new brush. So I'm going to take this brush, and I'm just going to put the layer of Mod Podge on. And I'm just going to make sure that the whole thing is covered, so probably a decent amount of Mod Podge. I just want to make sure I get all the crevices. You probably could use one of those sponge brushes, and that would work too, just because you want the holes, you want this stuff. So in order to get all the crevices so that when you go to put the epoxy on, it doesn't mess with that, you just want to make sure you get everything. So here we are. I don't know if you can see me or not. And we're just gonna cover this entire thing up. And if I missed anything on the first couple of lessons, I don't know. But yeah, this is, like I said, a 30-ounce tumbler. You can do whatever size you really want. This is what my customer ordered from me. So this is a special order that I do for Halloween. And I'm just covering it up as much as I can, trying to get into all the little crevices. This is a good brush for that for me. I do have the little sponge brushes, but you could go over it, but I feel the edges right here are good enough for me to be able to see. And then I'm just covering it for just a really good seal. I want to make sure nothing gets into this later and breaks the seal from me when I go to epoxy this cup. I do know a lot of other people use Mod Podge. The tacky glue worked beautifully for me. I had no issues with it as far as getting it on there. I felt like it was kind of a waste of a lot of Mod Podge to use that. Especially when I use it more for a sealant. I don't use Mod Podge that often. And you can use any Mod Podge that is available to you. You can use a dishwasher one, the regular one. I get these little teeny cubes from the dollar store just because I don't use Mod Podge all that much. I tend to use the epoxy method when I'm making my tumblers. It's just easier for me and my glitter to stay. So I can tell you, because of the way the paper towel had to dry last night, it was better to leave it overnight. It wasn't like an hour and it was dry kind of thing. It definitely took a few hours to dry, just because there was a layer underneath and over top of the paper towel. And you just want to make sure it gets a really good seal, totally covered. And then we'll get into the modeling clay. Now some people put snakes on here. I don't really think I'm gonna do that for my particular one. The customer really just wanted the eye and the scarring lines. Just add a little more of that. So I try to do whatever my customers recommend. I was thinking of adding a little snake, but I'm the kind that gets permission before I add anything extra to my customers' orders. So just getting my paintbrush in there really, really well. Making sure the Mod Podge is on there really, really well. And then I will probably leave this for a couple of hours to dry. And it makes a really good leather look. And then once I get the scarring all carved out, I may go in with a little bit of black acrylic paint just to add a few little lines, give it a little bit of depth with a couple of different colors. But we'll see what it looks like after that. Want to mix a little bit of colors in there. So get this all done. Looks like almost done. All right. And get that really nice leathery look. Some people use tissue paper. Some people also use toilet paper if they can do like a one ply. I found toilet paper is very, very delicate. It ends up being a big mess when you go to put it on the cup. So I chose paper towel just because it holds up a little bit better. It's a little bit thicker and it's okay for it to crease. Just remember that this is like a monster cup. So you don't want it to be perfect. You don't want it to be completely smooth. Right here you'll see like it kind of, the paper towel bunched up as I put it on. I want that because I want that dimension. I want it to look a little bit off. It's got to look like, you know, a 1,000-year-old witch's book. So you need to embrace a little bit of the non-perfection. I know I'm a little OCD with what I'm doing, but for this particular cup, you really got to embrace the differences in it. And also, every cup is unique. Every cup is different. Nothing is going to be made the same way. Customers like that. You know, theirs is a one and only. And that's why they're coming to us, right? Come to us because we are amazing. We're not those run-of-the-mill manufacturers that can throw out 10 or 12 cups in like a second. We spend time. We take the time to make these. And we definitely don't get paid enough for that. So I'm almost done with this, and then I'm going to let it dry. And you'll see, like I said, I didn't put a very thin coat on it. I made sure it was a little bit thicker just because I really want the seal to adhere to this cup. I want this to dry so that when I put the epoxy on, there's no soaking through and there's no tearing of my paper towel, especially after all that work. So, and of course Mod Podge is the best because it's going to dry clear. So no matter how much I put on this cup, it will be clear in the end. All right, just a little bit more on the bottom and we're here to dry. All right, so there we go. The entire cup, you can see it's already starting to dry on this side. The white's starting to disappear a little bit. So this cup is completely covered, except the bottom, I forgot. And I'm gonna do the bottom real quick, and then I will see you guys in a couple of hours when it's dry for the next step. All right, see you soon. Oh.